2, we have in 7.21 through 7.215, these are the specific fees that are assessed for specific programs, specific classes. And out of 491 of them, 474 have no change, 14 have a slight increase, 2 are new, and 1 has a proposed decrease. So I'd like to take 7.2.1 through 7.2.14 for 15. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion?
Just looking at some of the course fees, and thank you for keeping the numbers low as far as how we're doing this. You know, this has been one of the things that I've been very concerned about over the years. But can you help me understand why? Looks like some of the computer courses were actually we got 100% increase in the fees, and the explanation is increased computer lab time. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, we have a process by which we establish course fees for courses that use computer labs, and how we look at it is based upon the time that they use it. So for example, if they use the computer lab at all, there's a $10 minimum. If they use it 1 hour of use per week, it's $25, and if they use the entire class, it's $40.
So that helps us offset the cost of what?
Maintaining the labs.
So it's not labor per se, it's equipment, technology.
Yeah, but there could be labor if there's a computer lab person that's associated with that. Some of the labs have a lab assistant that would be in there. It could be consumable supplies like inkjet cartridges, things of that nature.
As opposed to consumable supplies like for the culinary programs
yeah.
that are increasing about what 50% on
Yeah.
some of those as well. This is so the ones for the computer labs is up and above the technology fee that the students already get.
Yes.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Walton.
Aye.
Ms. Buckbear.
Aye.
Dr. Griffin.
Aye.
Ms. Allen.
Aye.
Ms. Loeffler. Aye. Ms. Paul. Aye. Mr. Anderson. Dr. Berrigan.
Moving on to 7.3, fiscal year 2015 tuition and fees. I'd like a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it because we need it on the table so we can discuss it.
Exactly. Discussion. Who'd like to go first?
Well, one thing I'd like to see is that when and if we do vote, that this is broken out in two areas. Tuition, one, and the fees is separate items, rather than being grouped together.
Any discussion? I'd just like to take a poll of the board and see what your thinking is in terms of the dollar amounts that are here.
All right, I'll start. No one else wants to. It's kind of shocking, dollar amounts, because we've held firm to no tuition increases for 3 years. So looking at this increase it's hard to swallow because it's a dramatic change. So I know that we've all had individual conferences with administrative affairs personnel to have this explained to us, but it's still very difficult because we've always tried to make sure that getting an education here is affordable, because we don't want to lock anybody out of the opportunity to study here. So I think every one of us in our individual conversations has asked the question, do you really need this much of an increase? And what would it be like if you got, say, half of what you asked for, a quarter of what you asked for, 2/3 of what you asked for. So I think we've all asked those questions. If you want to know how each of us feels, I personally would feel that you probably need to do something. I don't have the answer as to what specifically is the appropriate amount that we need to do, but I don't want to see us make cuts that are so significant that we cut into the quality of the education. So I think we need to do something, but the amount that's being requested seems like more than I'm comfortable with. Any other comments?
Well, I just had we had a financial retreat. And I assume we all knew what those numbers were going to be. Should not have we talked about it at that time? I mean, why did we go forward with a $13 increase a month ago? And there wasn't some debate, discussion prior to that of how we might have felt about it. We had this discussion. They presented. Now, I would have preferred to have more options to us be presented rather than, I think, we need to think about this, at least from my perspective, is that, it shouldn't be all or nothing. It should be options presented for us. Because that's the time for us to engage in the debate about the way we're feeling, about what I think you're talking about now. Now we're at a point where it's before us. It's either an up or down or defer. But, they had this discussion. You brought this up to us last month. I would have suggested that we had done some talking and discussion with the President and Vice Presidents about some option opportunities. Because now I think we probably need to defer this whole thing until we have some more options.
Certainly deferring it is an option. It's a little tricky for some of our public relations and marketing. We did have conversations that have been going on. I talked to you,
Yep.
and we can, one of the numbers that I heard was that perhaps a $3 student fee and perhaps $6 for tuition could be acceptable to some folks. And I just put that there as a number, but I think the chairman wants to hear from the rest of you.
Kendall, what do the students think?
Well, the student government did unanimously vote yes to the $13 increase, but some students are wondering, because we're going to be under construction, why are we increasing it now? I mean, you're sitting in class and you're hearing drills going, so why increase it now when we're under construction, pay more to be in a facility where you're in a test and you hear that drilling, where it sort of you're not concentrating a lot. But the student government said they believe in the increase because it keeps up with how the college is right now. And there's a need for it. If we're going to keep up the quality of our education, we're going to need the increase.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question. What is the student government's process for approving? I mean, do they poll the students, or what do they do? Kind of survey?
We have student senators, which are the voting body. We have about, I think, 13 senators right now. They're the only people that vote. We get all the facts from like David Agazy about what the whole budgeting is, how the taxes are right now, what we're getting from the state, and then based on that we make a decision, and they're the only ones that vote, the senators.
And I think they did a presentation from Rich Haney, Karen Lavin, and I think Andy Williams.
Just to the senators or to any of the
I mean,
student
do you
body
poll
who
the
wants to
students, or
watch?
is there a referendum of some sort?
This
This is a big deal, I think.
it is. The senators are they fill out an application. Really, it's if they really want to be a senator. We don't really poll anybody. We try and get them to come in, but the people that really vote are very diverse. I mean, we have financial aid students, we have people that are non-financial aid, we have the people that are in the clubs. We have a very diverse Senate.
I just have to say, I think it's really laudable that the students, or the senators are simply students, would consider this and support.
Mhm.
I support it, I mean reluctantly, fee increases are always a pain. They seem to be necessary. The option, I'm not sure what those would be.
Trustee Anderson?
Well, you know, this is a 4-3 board, and I would say I'm disappointed.
I actually didn't have to, I didn't make my comments, I just had a question for her. My comments would be, I really wish that when this was posed to us that we would, yes, have options, but secondly, some concessions. 3 years ago, when I sat here for the first time, I asked for certain budgetary concessions. If you're gonna raise the fees here, then we have to find a way to do some sort of good faith concessions, for lack of a better word, not using the word cut, but some concessions, smart, strategic, even tactical concessions, so that this would be easier pill to follow. I mean, easier pill to swallow. And I just don't know if we've been as thorough as we perhaps could have. I don't know that to be true because I don't remember hearing any concessions as it relates to these fee increases. So I think it would have been good to know that you know, there's a thought on the other side of the balance sheet as far as debits and credits.
What I'm hearing from everybody seems to be that oh, Trustee Olshire, sorry.
I think I'm probably one of the few folks that voted against the tuition increase last time. To ask me,
No, you just did.
The majority voted.
The majority voted against it last time.
even the time before that, but,
Well, for 3 years.
but I guess I'm going to voice my same concern I've been voicing. Right now, and the numbers are there, our enrollments are down. They've been down. They're going to continue to be down. We've looked at the enrollments at our elementary schools and our high schools in the county. We know what their enrollments are today. We know what the enrollments are going to be 15 years down the road, and they're going to continue to decrease. While at the same time, we're increasing our employee headcount. We're building. We're trying to do more online types of things. And while at the same time, we're asking for an 11.6% increase on the backs of our students. Like I said, I don't support it. Every time you increase tuition, you decrease access for students, and you decrease their chances for student success.
All right, I have a question. Since it sounds like, I'd like to know what other people want to do. I mean, because I'm hearing people say no, and then I don't know if no means only no to the present proposal, or if no means I would consider something less than this 9 + 3 + 1.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, it sounds like from what I'm hearing that we would like to have more information with some options. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to split the two, you know, and consider them separately. But I think we need to see what the impact is going to be with the options. I honestly don't see how, in the long run, you can get away with no tuition increase, much as none of us want it. We're still way below our peer institutions, or we're below the median or the mean of our peer institutions. We haven't raised tuition in 3 years. Other schools have all along, but I don't think it's fair to hit all at once with a big increase, and we don't want to displace students. I know that the research shows that it will not really affect certain portions of students based on those who get financial aid or based on those who can already afford to pay for their tuition. It's still the best bargain in town in terms of what the credit hours cost. But we need to see more information. Am I hearing that correctly? Before we decide? And this is something we should table and have you come back to us with some alternative proposals?
Well, yeah, I think there's some room there to work with administration, for sure. And that's what I'd like to see. But I think there's some room that we can work together on this.
Trustee Paul?
I think that was clear as far as, when you add to this, you have to find a way to subtract. I see the trend, and I mentioned about we, as an institution, really should begin to skate where the puck will be. And, a lot of students are opting to go to programs that make them job ready as soon as possible. Now, that could be us. I mean, we would like to participate in something like that, but I just feel that, innovation is a good ideal, and that means creative ways to finance higher cost for running an institution.
All I'm asking is whether or not you would be willing to consider putting this off and having administration come back to us with some alternative proposals so we have some things that we can weigh and look at, and then we can take a vote on it after we have more information.
Of course, I just thought that this should have been done prior to. I don't really know why that's a question, to be quite honest.
So would someone be able to make a motion then that we...
I'll make that motion. But I just do want to say, in fairness, I think what David and his group have been doing on the audits does get to some of your questions, Trustee Paul, because the audits have been revealing to us about where we're going to reduce expenses in a lot of areas. The last one was the foundation audit. I just think it's fair that is on the table, because I do think Vice President Casey has been doing that under the direction of President Weber. So I don't want to lose focus, because I do think that is being done. Maybe it's not being done enough, maybe there's some more work there, but I think that they are doing it.
It's a promise. It's a potential.
Well,
Actual audits.
yeah,
Actual audits would have promised to look into certain things to reduce certain, you know what you can get with $1.50 in potential. So,
Well, have we increased the headcount? Is that a fair assumption?
All depends on how you count it. It tends to be a moving target.
When we have a C1 report we put into the state every year, we can get you that data from Sean Hogan's office over last 3 or 4 years.
I think the bigger piece here, and the part that I find troubling, is probably the same thing that Trustee Griffin said, and several others, that this is on our agenda here tonight without even having a conversation about it. I find that very troubling.
Wasn't that what our finance retreat was for?
We had a finance retreat, we presented the information.
I understand it was at the finance retreat, but I guess when I was in the workshops that I've gone through, one of the rules is you don't put something on the agenda unless you know it's going to pass.
So, Trustee Griffin, you were going to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to defer 7.3 and request additional information that be brought back at a later date.
Any second?
Maybe some options.
And with options, excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Second.
And options all over the board. A zero option should be included in that as well.
Okay, I accept that.
So we have a second.
Second.
Yeah.
Just any discussion, if possible.
Yes.
I'm wondering if anybody is willing to make more specific direction to staff onto what your options are. I mean, do you want to, or what you all say, I just heard 0, okay, I get that. Where we would be if we did no increases whatsoever, are then you just saying like a 25% of what they're requesting, 50%, 75%? Or is there a way we can give them some direction so that they know what we're looking for?
Well, you got the top end, you got the bottom end, so I think 25 to 50 in there would be fine.
We can also give you an example of the impact, which we've done in a sense, talked about the impact on the budget. I think we've talked to you, so we can talk about how much would have to be cut.
And I guess too, we have to make sure that we're not just looking at, okay, fine, it's easy to say, hey, we're gonna have to cut this, 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 and this. Maybe we can be a little bit more creative as well, and see how we can capitalize on the spending as opposed to cutting things.
And I think it should be correlated with what you are doing with reducing costs. At least that's there so you can see, or at least what you're going to propose on reduction of overall operating expenses. That ought to be there too, and with an eye to next year. Let's not go, let's have an eye to the next year as well. So some thought on that would be helpful.
Right, and I mean, the report that I had, $260,000 shortfall for every dollar that we don't agree to. Is that right? So, and I think the question that Trustee Oschlager raised was, which was a question that I had too. Maybe, please explain to us if all the underlying assumptions are valid, if we in fact have like a lower enrollment than these, than what was predicted. That these were based on a 2% decline in enrollment, but actually we've had almost a 10% decline in enrollment. So, I mean, those of us who aren't really math oriented still think like fewer students should mean it should cost less. So maybe we could help us explain how that fits into the picture.
David, do you want to talk about that a little bit now? There's already an estimate.
Yeah, we already know on tuition we're going to revise that estimate down by $500,000. And we've not asked for an additional more than $2 increase to cover that. So so another way of saying that, just approving a $9 increase, we still have to cut the budget by $500,000
Because of decreased revenues.
because of decreased enrollment.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second, so may we have roll call, please, Rita?
Ms. Walton. What's the motion? I think we have 2 motions on the table.
No, there's one motion on the table.
What's the motion?
We'll just defer item 7.3 for further consideration at a later date and present back to the board a strategy and options that also correlate with what we're doing on reducing operating expenses now and in the future.
Well,
And seconded by
Mary Beth?
Then trustee Kerrigan, James, and trustee Gutschger have to withdraw their original motion to.
Okay, so withdraw the
Or they
original
can move to
motion.
table.
Or table it.
We'll table
To
it.
table.
Okay.
So now we can have roll call.
So they're gonna table their original motion and we're going with
You have to have a vote to table it.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So we need 2 votes.
Yes.
Right.
So you want to vote the table first, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you just withdraw the motion?
Yep.
Yeah, they could do that.
It'll be
They
easier
could
just to
yeah,
withdraw
just
the
withdraw the
motion.
motion. Yeah.
So are you both
Withdraw.
withdrawing the motion? Okay.
So now we need one vote.
Mhm.